Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball 19 playthrough with the Phillies. We have finished all the playoffs, gone through all the awards, gone through salary arbitration. We're right now just started the free agent filing period. What I'm going to do in this episode is cover those awards. Got the playoff screen up here first, show you how that went. And then look at where we're at as a team, and maybe go through a few sim ahead to the winter meetings or so. See what we're going to do to rebuild this team, or at least go that extra step to get back into the playoffs. But first things first, some kind of surprises to me in a way in the playoffs. I think it was a surprise, honestly, that the Dodgers and Diamondbacks wound up in that championship final in the National League. So I didn't expect that division to be that tough, but they both just breezed through the playoffs. 3-1 games or series in the division series. And then it was a very close match in the league championship series. And then Kansas City, who had the best record in baseball this season for 2037, they didn't really cruise at all going through the playoffs. Took the full 5 games to get past the Angels, took the full 7 games to get past Seattle. And Seattle, they're a team that hasn't had a whole lot of success in this playthrough so far, so they might be on the upswing. Hard to tell, I guess, for just one season. But then in the World Series, the Diamondbacks swept the Royals. So I guess the National League was tougher than I thought. If you look at the playoff, let me see, look at the history. Kansas City, first time they've been into the World Series since they won it in 2026. Arizona, first time for them since 2023, and they won it in 2023. Am I looking at that right? So 2 relatively new teams there in the World Series this year. But hats off to both teams. Arizona was pretty tough every time we've played them in the last few years. So I think they have been building a team for a while, and it's good to see that they finally made it all the way. And next step I wanted to do was look at the end of the year awards. We had a few guys showing up there. Some things that, I thought Gordon had a good chance at MVP. Didn't win it. Who won it wasn't a surprise, but Gordon finished second. We'll take a look at the MVP voting, but I'd like to go through them off. If you guys don't mind, we'll start out with the best fielders, so that's pretty much the Gold Glove awards. Not really too familiar. Wally Kuhn, he's a guy who's been around for a while, but not too familiar with a lot of these guys in the American League. In the National League, one of our old guys, Torvald Vandenhoeven, if you've watched this series for a while, he's a guy who I traded Kevin Cox for, who's turned into an all-star. Vandenhoeven, though, good defensive first baseman. First time he's won the Gold Glove, but still, he was always a good defensive first baseman, had some power, but just not a great offensive player. He might, at the tail end of his career, he's a free agent this year, I think. He might be putting together some decent years here. I mean, he's... one full season will give him 1,000 hits. He might get close to 200 home runs. So not a terrible career for him. But that was the only really connection. We didn't have any Phillies make that list. Relievers of the year went to Mike Jackson in the American League, and then in the National League went to Pat Tracy, who is not a closer. That's happened a few times in this league. He just put up some great numbers overall. And Juan Mendoza finished third in voting over really some pretty good closers. So Mendoza's got a good reputation, I think, now in the league. I always get some trade offers for him. I think I've gotten one so far this offseason already. Platinum Stick Awards, Brandon Kinsler in the American League. He's a guy who's been there perennially. One of the best players, honestly. when he's all said and done, he might be one of the best players in baseball history, the kind of numbers he's putting up. In the National League, this was a big big year for the Phillies. We had the first baseman in Josh Gordon, third baseman in J.J. Lohman, and even Lou Villa at left field made the Platinum Stick Award for the National League. So that's pretty cool. We don't see it's rare that I see a Phillies make the Platinum Stick. Rookie of the Year, Mike Sharp, a really good looking up and comer for the Red Sox. He won it in the American League. In the National League, Josh Brito. No Phillies got some votes. I was thinking that guy that we picked up midseason, Perillo, I think his name is. I was thinking he might get some votes, but he didn't. Skipper of the Year went to Arizona's and I guess Kansas City's. That's how it usually goes. Cy Young Award went to an international free agent from a couple years ago, Young Soo Hyun in Kansas City. Zach Owenby got some votes. I'm not familiar with too many of these other guys, though. And then Milwaukee, it went to the guy who pretty much led it in wins above replacement, from a guy from Milwaukee, Jorge Arce, I guess if you say it that way. He led the league in strikeouts as well. Had a pretty decent year. I don't know that I would consider that a Cy Young year. Espinoza finished second. Joe Mann. Pete Parker, this guy's a free agent this year. He's a good-looking pitcher. Still just 29, about 30 years old. I'm not going to be able to afford him, but he had a pretty good year. And then no Phillies picked up any votes for Cy Young. And then for MVPs, it went to this guy, Kostinko, who is a 5-star player at Boston. Boston is really putting together a good team right now in this playthrough. They struggled for a while, too. They went through some very tough years, and now they've got some great players coming up, young players coming up. This guy won his first MVP and really deserved it. He didn't finish high in terms of wins above replacement. He wasn't first, but he had those 61 home runs. Coming off back-to-back, coming off a good season last year, too. So pretty good choice there. Sometimes the voting, computer voting, AI voting surprises me a little bit, but I think that was a good pick. Brandon Kinsler did pick up some votes, finished fourth. He's already won 3 of these awards. I don't know. Picked up another good year for him. One of the things that amazes me about him is his wins above replacement. I think he's got a good shot at winning, finishing above 100 for his career. Mike Trout just finished over 100 for his career in this playthrough, but it's rare to see that. Very few. I mean, that's kind of like baseball immortal level. So I think, as many times as I've talked about this guy, I think it's safe to say that he's probably the best player I've seen offensively in this playthrough. Then National League, it went to Renaga. Again, not a surprise. He led in hits. He led in wins above replacement. But honestly, I know he's a great player overall. He's got some speed even. But I don't know. I think Gordon, I guess it's just favoritism here, but I think Gordon had a better year and meant more to the team. If you look at Renaga's line, 37 home runs, 104 RBIs, a 316 average. Josh Gordon was just .2 wins above replacement lower, had 49 home runs, led the league in runs and RBIs, still hit 305. So I don't know. I think that could have been a toss-up. This is Renaga's fourth in a row, if I was counting right. 34, 35, 6, 7, yeah. 4 times in a row for him. He may turn out to be another Kinsler-level player as well. Just 25 years old, will be 26 next year. And look at those numbers. 273 home runs already, 44 wins above replacement. So a few more years under his belt, and he might overtake Kinsler as the best player in this playthrough. But looking at the other vote getters in the MVP race, I thought it was kind of cool that we had a couple more Phillies in Villa and Lohman. Even though we didn't get a guy from the team to win, it was a good showing. I mean, I think that kind of underscores what I've said about the offense on this team. It's really not that bad. If we could just somehow scrape together some decent pitching, I think we would really be in a good spot to win the division, make the playoffs, and maybe even make a World Series again. I think the offense is that good. But now we're going to lose Villa, and we've already lost him as far as that goes in the offseason. But looking at this team right now, we took a big hit in. Well, let me do it from here too. And when you look at the arbitration and the free agency, I was surprised that LaRue filed for free agency. To be honest, he's coming off a pretty decent year, but man, his contract was another like $14 million. But sometimes this will happen. I guess he thought, coming off that year that he had when he led the league in wins, maybe he can get another 3 years, $50 million or so. That seems to be what he's going for. But we lost him. We did lose Villa, but some surprising developments there. I'll let you know about here in a minute. But we had a tough decision to make on some of these guys. You'll see like Mike Swan, $5.5 million, Juan Mendoza, the closer, 6.8, Koopman, 3.4, Kurt Hines. I don't really think he's worth $4.5 million, but that's what he got in arbitration, coming off a so-so year really. But his wins above replacement was good, so maybe he'll be that kind of a picture again. But Dusty Stern, because my offense or outfield is so slim right now, I went ahead and let him go through arbitration, and he got a big number, 4.6 for the kind of player he is. I know he's put together some offensive numbers that look good, but this guy's not really going to, if I can find another corner outfielder, he's not going to get much playtime next year. So I hate that I had to go that high on him, but I tried to trade him, couldn't get many good offers, so I'm stuck with him for now. But we're in free agent period. We're not going to have a whole lot of money to spend. Our owner's really a skinflint. He's the son of the previous owner, and a whole lot less generous than that guy. If you look at salaries for next year, I think we're in a good spot. $102 million. Shouldn't be that bad, but he's really one of the goals that he set for me is to finish with a budget of $18 million projected balance. I don't see how I can do that and be competitive with that kind of a budget. So what it really means is, unfortunately, I'm probably going to be not just limited, I'm going to be really shut out of what I can do in free agency. I have made one offer, and I've seen this before, and you guys have probably seen it if you've seen this whole playthrough. I think there's at least one or two players in this playthrough this has happened to. But for whatever reason, Lou Villa, who my owner does want me to re-sign, still a 4-star player, still got great individual ratings. He was only asking for $1.2 million, and I don't know what that's about, coming off the kind of year that he had. But I went ahead and gambled, and we'll see how it plays out. I don't think $1.2 million would be enough to get him, but if I can get him for a few million for another year, I'll risk that, even though I've been back and forth on this guy about how injury prone he is. He gave me a good year last year. I mean, if I got 111 starts out of this guy again, even 100 starts at 3, 4, 5 million, that's a huge value and a huge like steal almost to get the kind of player that he is. I mean, he's good in speed, average, power. Surprised me a little bit that he got the Silver Slugger, but that was a great line last year. And even he had 4.4 wins above replacement. That's his second year, even with all the injuries, that he's finished above 4. I think you give this guy a full season. I think he's looking 5, 6, 7 wins above replacement pretty easily. But I'm going to sim ahead and see how he looks. See if he favors that offer or if that's going to turn out to be a dud. But there's some good players out here. It really stinks that I cannot go for any. I mean, this is shaping up to be one of the best free agent classes I've seen in a while with this playthrough. I mean, this is just the starting pitchers that I'm looking at. And there's 4 guys here, 3.5 or above. And I mentioned him earlier. I really like this Pete Parker guy. He's coming off 3 straight really good seasons. 4, 5.5, 5.9 wins above replacement. 3 good seasons in a row for a poor San Diego team. So if you put him on a good team, and he's won Cy Young once before in 2035, I think, you put him on a good team, he's going to be, at least at this point in his career, he's going to be a great pitcher. But you can see he's just really struggling because of the team he's on. So at $24 million, I would love to get this guy, but I don't have the money, and really sucks. And I don't think I can really back in the contract enough to pick him up either. Another one, DJ Taylor. He's wrecked, but I wouldn't mind throwing a year or 2 out there for him to see if he can stick. Juan Delgado doesn't look too bad. So a lot of even 3-star and above starters, but they're all just outside of my budget right now. Even Juan Toro wanting $22 million. Eric Madrak I could probably afford again, but I just think it's time to move on from him, even though he's had a great career in some respects. Career-wise, he's got 2,500 strikeouts for his career. That's enough, I think, of it. I was looking at some of the overall records of the league, and that was enough to get him in the top 100 overall, all-time strikeouts. But his best days are behind him. I think I'm going to keep an eye on it and look and see if some of these 2.5-star guys, maybe a few 3-star guys, are still out there closer to preseason next year, and I might get get him at a bargain anyway. And even all batters, there's some great guys out here. Luvia, knock on wood, and hope that I can sneak that one in there. But some 4-star guys here at the top. Alfredo Santana, who's at the end of his career, he's another one of the best players that's been generated in this playthrough. He's probably good for another year or 2. I just don't need him. But some team picks him up, he's going to be a good pickup. But you go down to the middle here, even Pat Dowdy would be an upgrade for me at second, I think, even though Koopman has given me pretty decent play for the last couple of years. But he's winning almost $20 million a year. I think I'm set with offense to the point where I don't need some of these guys. It's just I would love to wind up with Villa again. There might be a few outfielders if I don't get Villa that I might come back and see if I can, like even some of these 2-star guys, see if I can sign one of them just to add some depth. But right now the biggest thing is going to be that pitching staff. I basically had to move it around a little bit, and we're looking at guys who were mainly in the bullpen last year who are going to be in that starting rotation at least in the spring. Right now there's only 4 true starting pitchers that I'm going with right now if I don't pick up another one. And even the bullpen looks pretty shaky at this point. Outside of Espinal and Mendoza, maybe Transu, who had a pretty decent last year. Some of these guys are going to have to step up. But really what I'm counting on when it comes to pitching is I'm hoping that I'm going to take a look at these 2 guys, Contreras and Ken Dion. Contreras is a former first-round pick. Ken Dion, former third-round pick. But they both, I've talked about it several times, I know, but they both have the kind of makeup that I really think is good for a starting pitcher. This guy, Contreras, is a potential 3-star rated starter for my scout, but he's double-digit already in 3 pitches and all the basic rating stuff, movement, control. So I think that looks good. Ken Dion, though, he looks even better. He's a 1.5, potential 2.5 star for me, but OSA likes him a little better, and his stuff rating is potentially way up there. OSA likes him enough. They got potential 18 out of a 20 scale and stuff. But right now, he's got 3 solid pitches, double digits rated in fastball, cutter, forkball out of 5. So he's got a good assortment of pitches, good stamina, double digits in the stuff, movement, control. The only thing that scares me a little bit is his movement. He'll probably give up some home runs once he plays and starts every day, but I'm hoping that he has a good spring and maybe a good offseason and develops. And then I got maybe a couple guys here like Kirtley. Maybe. I tried him in spring last time. Glover, Castro. Some of these guys might develop over the offseason and make it to make a spot in the bullpen next year. But pitching is where I'm struggling. One thing I did, I think I'm a little bit too loyal sometimes to some of these players. Another thing I did in the offseason, Portillo looks good. Aguirre, I'm going to try him at right. But once again, Vargas, his player option came up, and it was a team option this year, $12.5 million, and I went for it. I'm going to give him one more year at least. I'd like to see him end his career on a high note. He's in the top 10 categories in a lot of offensive categories for the all-time Phillies, and I'd like to see him. That's basically why I'm keeping him up here. I'd like to see him hit some milestones with us, like 1,000 runs. He's over 400 stolen bases, which is good. He's easily top 10 in stolen bases, and I think runs both. I'm not sure as much on runs, but I think he's short a few hits in being the top 10 all-time Phillies. I don't know. I think this is a guy that I drafted, and I wouldn't mind seeing him finish high in some of those numbers. And if he doesn't turn out, he's at least a valuable bench player because he does have good speed and his individual ratings, contact power, even gap power, eye, are good enough that he's still a good bat, I think. So that was a lot of rambling, I know, about the offseason, how it's shaping up so far. I'm going to go ahead and sim ahead to, we'll try to see if we get stopped here by anything. But I'm going to go ahead and go up to the winter meetings before I make any more moves. And I would like to get through the Rule 5 draft in this episode if I can. So looking at the news, we got some slim pickings and the international scouting. Looks like some minor trades going on here so far. Rangers, like some 2-star guys. We do have a trade proposal from Colorado. It's catcher for Portillo. I don't think so. And I think Portillo is probably going to be a name that's, I think he's going to get some interest this year because he's, so young. He's making that minimum salary. If another team scout values him like mine does, this guy's got a really good upside. So I'm not going to trade this guy for a catcher when I've already got a great catcher in the making. Orioles re-signed Jeff Perry, a guy who's injury prone, but he's also put up some pretty decent years at times. He's got great ratings. And then Cincinnati, they picked up Parker. He didn't stay long out there in the market, but they signed him pretty long term through 2043. And really, I would have thrown this kind of money at him at this point. It sucks that I've got some high contracts going out there on the offensive side, and Gordon, Lohman, for instance, and even I know Vargas. That's a lot of money probably to be paying him, but that's a good value for the kind of starting pitcher this guy could be. I don't know if he'll be that valuable for 6 more years, but that was a good pickup for Cincinnati. So now we're going down to the winter meetings. And Ars, didn't this guy win the Cy Young? I don't like his control, so I'm not going to go that high for him. I really Can't believe he won the Cy Young. I think it was one of the poorer picks I've seen in this playthrough. So Lou Villa does like the that $1.2 million contract. Wow. So is there goes nah. I would expect to see a few more big signings by now. Cincinnati, man, they're wanting to win. It looks like. What were they? Let me see if the standings still show up. So 72-90 last year. They either got a new owner or they decided to put some money. They picked up Santana, who's like I say, he's 38 years old at the tail end of his career, but he put up a good year last year. They signed him for a couple more years, a vesting option on that second year. Good news for him. He's close to 3,000 hits, another couple seasons for sure. I think he'll be passing that milestone. And then 500 home runs close. And he's another guy who's got a good shot at getting 100-plus wins above replacement for his career. And the Mets signed Nellums, he's wrecked. This guy's been a pretty high, $20 million for almost $20 million for 4 years. They're not going to get that from him. I would be really shocked. I mean, even last year, 31 starts, 4.08 ERA. I don't think he's that good of a pitcher anymore. So the Mets, though, they're throwing some money out there. And Cincinnati even active in trading. Now, this guy, yes, I would love to trade for this guy. My scout thinks he's a mid-rotation pitcher, but he's got some really good ratings, and a decent contract. It's loaded a little bit on the back end, but he's just 26. He's already put up a couple good seasons in a row there, but let me see what it would take if there's anybody there's nobody that they would not even Ian Norman. They're not even thinking about it. All right, so not much going on so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at my salaries for next year, and upcoming free agents, Espinal, Swan, Transu. I really want to keep all three of those guys for next year. But in terms of salaries, I mean, Gordon, that guy's exciting. I mean, he pretty much carried our offense. Mayhew, he would really leave me thin in pitching, but with that contract, I could be persuaded to look at some other players. Man, not much. A lot of guys in the same boat. Mike Elwell's a big power hitter. First baseman, though, I don't really need. So a lot of salary dumps there as well. I know Mayhew was a gamble, but right now he's still rated higher than any other starting pitcher I have. So I can't really trade him. And then Vargas, like I say, I'm gonna keep him. I know that sounds stupid. I've tried trading Stern before. I wish I could get something decent for this guy, but no real good offers either from him. I mean, some high dollar starting pitchers. I would really need to get like either even a minor league contract or a very low contract reliever or something to benefit the team with that trade. So I'm just really in a pretty tight spot. There's not much I can do to trade. none of these guys here at the top of the salary list are guys I'd be willing to trade. And even, and Vargas is a fan favorite, so I'd take a hit there. But even if I shopped him around, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get anything. No team offered a player for him, so I'm stuck with him. So that looks to be about it. I mean, if I look at the trading block, Musov, can't afford his contract. Really the same with Kearney, although he's coming off a pretty decent year. He's had a pretty nice run there for the Yankees. Sean Barge still around, former Philly. He's been injury prone, but for his career, not too bad. He's got some pretty decent numbers here and there, but his best year was definitely with the Phillies a couple of years ago. Though a couple of years ago with the Detroit, he had a good year, 4+ wins above replacement. But gosh, Dave Corbin, Brandon Krause, these are going to be really high contracts, I'm pretty sure. Kevin Jensen even, $3.6 million. So waiver wire, probably too early for that. Relievers, are there any guys? Well, not a great looking class of relievers in terms of. Now Kevin Hamburg is still out there. He gave me a decent year as well last year. Steve White. He's a pretty good guy. $3 million. I'm gonna Ben Schneider, lefty. I know it might be a gamble, but I'm gonna let these guys ride it out a little bit. And like Steve White, Hamburg, if I can get them for $2-3 million a year, I may swing that. But we'll see if they're available a little bit later in the offseason. So I'm gonna go ahead and go up to the Rule 5 draft and see if I get any luck there. I got a trade proposal from San Diego, O'Brien for Portillo. So a lot of teams are going to be looking for him, I bet. And he's too valuable to me right now to even consider it. Athletics, they pick up Kadir Klacks, $8.3 million, but he's injury prone at this point. San Diego picked up Musov, or excuse me, Arizona did. So Arizona looking to repeat. He's a good pitcher. I don't know what they gave away for him. Looks like a couple decent prospects in there from their minor league system. So Juan Delgado went to the Yankees. Way more than I'd want to pay for him. And Cincinnati in there again. Looks like they traded for. That's kind of a surprise. I don't see this guy doing much. So now we're. Let me go ahead and look at the Rule 5 draft pool. And what I'm going to do here too is I like going through and making sure there's no teams that I can afford to lose, or no guys that I can afford to lose here. So it's going to be Reading and Lehigh Valley. Harrisburg, I think, is another one. Let me double check. Lehigh Valley, Reading, Clearwater, Lakewood. Those would be the guys that I'll probably need to make sure of. So let's go to Clearwater first. They would have to be some really super prospects at this point. Nope. Nothing I could afford to lose. Now, Lakewood. Same deal, just nothing there. Reading, well, Lehigh Valley. Lehigh Valley might have a few. Need to really be be careful there. Yep. So Juan Castro, I'm going to put him on my 40. I'm definitely putting Dion on my 40 because, like I say, I think I'm going to really depend on him to potentially make it onto the roster in spring training. Rory Easter. Yeah, I can afford to lose him. And then last thing is looking at Redding. And nothing there that I can afford to lose. So let's go ahead and go through the draft and see what we got. We're going to be picking 24th, so really not that high. Let's see if look at batting ratings first. I wouldn't mind picking up another outfielder here, like Juan Delgado. Has he played in the majors? He hasn't, but he can only play right field. Got some great speed. I think he would be probably a wasted pick. I don't know if he's ready to make it. Josh Fox, another right fielder. He's played a little bit at Seattle. I do like his contact rating, really high against righties. He can be a good bat off the bench, but I'd like to see a little bit more from him in terms of his. He was called up a couple years ago, but he didn't even get called up for Seattle last year. But I don't think he's worth trying. This guy's only been up to Double-A. OSA is not too high on him. And then Marion Reedus. That guy sounds familiar. So he's got a minor league contract. I think he's been around. Let me look at, see if I'm mistaken this for somebody else. Yeah, he didn't play last year, which is a surprise, but I don't know if that was because he was injured. No, they sent him back to Double-A. That's crazy. He had a great, or relatively good, I should say, season for them in 2036. In the majors, I don't know why they would have called him down again, but let me see what my scout says. So he's got some problems against lefties. Yeah, he does a little bit. I just don't think this guy's better than some. Yeah, I mean he's not going to be better than what I've got out there already. So I'm not going to waste it on that. And then going back to the draft. So we still got Delgado out there. And that's it. He would have to really, yeah. He's primarily going to be a lefty bat. I don't think that. I think this would be a wasted pick as well. So let's go ahead and finish this draft. There's not much going on there. This may be one of those unfortunate off seasons where nothing happens. It might be, Villa might be the best thing we got going. But what I'm going to try to do is get Villa signed, and then I'm going to sim ahead as we go through, probably sim to spring training. I'm going to try to pick up a couple more relievers if they're still out there and I can afford them. And we'll go back to the drawing board again. It might be another tough year for us, although we were just a game away from making the playoffs this year. I don't think we'd have to improve all that much, but you consider what we lost, and I'm pretty sure it's going to show up that we've lost. Yeah, I mean, we're negative 9.0 in terms of the wins above replacement that we've lost this offseason. And that's mainly because of Villa. So that would balance out if we were able to redraft him or re-sign him. But we also lost, Madrak, LaRue, McSparran. That was 35 wins between them. So yeah, we did lose some decent players that we really need to replace somehow. But that's going to do it for this episode. I'll sim ahead, like I say, to spring training, and then we'll try it again. I expect that I'll be able to pick up maybe a couple of relievers, and hopefully Villa. We'll know, though, if I don't pick him up, I may keep trying to either trade or sign another extra outfielder, because we're really slim there in the outfield spots to get low down in the minors. So we'll have to pick up another guy if we can't get Villa. But as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next episode.